welcome to the Exandria Unlimited campaign wrap-up. That's right, you got me, bitches. Yeah. And of course, you also have the lovely Robbie, Aabria, Liam, Ashley, Matt, and Aimee. I was trying to think of more adjectives to describe you all, but I gave up and stopped at lovely.
It works. We'll take it.
It's hot. It's 100 degrees outside. Because this wrap-up is pre-taped, that means we are going to throw to Comfy Matt one last time for our announcements and our sponsors of the day. Take it away, Comfy Matt!
Thank you, Marisha. This episode is sponsored by Life is Strange: True Colors, a brand new full-length game in the award-winning Life is Strange series from Square Enix. This new standalone story follows Alex Chen through a thrilling mystery when her brother dies in a so-called accident. Alex must embrace her volatile power to find the truth and uncover the dark secrets buried by a small town. Omar's already pre-ordered it, and he's excited. Life is Strange: True Colors comes out on September 10th, and if you purchase the Deluxe or Ultimate Edition, you'll later get access to Life is Strange Wavelengths, an exclusive prequel story where you play as returning character Steph Gingrich. And we're excited to announce that Steph Gingrich is canonically a critter, and she makes her mark on the record store she manages in the game. She'll customize it with official Critical Role merch, including posters on the walls, comics and t-shirts on the shelves, and you might even find a few familiar-looking ladies in Steph's dating app. Life is Strange Wavelengths releases on September 30th, and you can check everything out now at lifeisstrange.com. I know, buddy, it's just around the corner. Thank you so much also for joining us on Twitch and YouTube. To join in our live and moderated community chat, please head on over to our Twitch channel. And of course, these gorgeous statues of Vex and Vax are available for pre-order right now from our friends at Sideshow. Vax stands at 11 3/4 inches tall with his wings out and carries his 3 signature daggers, Whisper and Flame in hand, with the poison dagger stashed in the sheaths hanging from his belt alongside Simon. Vex stands at 11.5 inches tall with an arrow nocked in Fenthras and wearing her white dragon armor with elven chain and signature blue feathers. Both statues have the Vox Machina monogram engraved on the base, and you can pre-order your Vex and Vax statues right now and check out our Sideshow collection at sideshow.com/brands/critical-role. And with that, back to you, Marisha.
Wow. How amazing were those announcements. And I'm going to be nice because he's my husband. So he was just wearing only a robe. Only a robe.
I love you.
Just simple, easy to achieve.
Easy.
And a little hot. Okay, I think that we are...
Beastmaster.
Just don't uncross your legs. I think we are all set to jump into...
Post team.
Yeah,
All pixelation.
we'll get the Naked and Afraid team on it. I think we are all set to jump into tonight's episode of Exandria Unlimited, our campaign wrap-up. Woo! Welcome back. Okay, you all, if you saw the campaign wrap up for campaign 2, this is going to be kind of similar. It's going to be a little bit of a roundtable discussion. Feel free if any of you all want to chime in. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask them. But until then, I'm going to kick it off. Robbie and Aimee. This was your guys' first time really diving into like a campaign. You guys are the role-playing game newbies of the group, and now that the experience has completed, what do you think? How was it?
Man, it's like a vital part of my personality now. Like,
Yeah, you fell hard.
it's all I want to talk about. It's all I want to talk about with anyone, my gynecologist. And I'm like, have you ever played D&D?
Talking with your gynecologist about it too. Yeah. It's super weird.
Shout out Dr. Brown. She's heard all about it. It's so good. I wish I had done this when I was younger, because I would have had like so many more experiences.
That's exactly what I said. Like my first thought, like where it's like, oh, why have I waited? Yeah. It's been amazing. Totally.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
have us back.
And you were like buying a bunch of dice sets and stuff like that.
immediately.
How much money did you spend?
I spent, so on one set, I spent $200.
That's right. That's right.
But they were very sharp dice. Isn't that a thing? Like the sharper, the more expensive?
Yeah.
Okay.
It works as dice and self-defense mechanism.
Right.
You know.
And they were like handmade, like, hand poured or whatever. So yeah, I spent a lot of money. I would say all told, about $300 to $400.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Way to catch
respectable.
up. Respect, yeah.
Exactly.
So now I have all these dice and no one to play
Roll a
with.
13.
I know. I know.
Why did you get dice with the same number all over them?
Weird. That's what happens when you're a newbie.
Extra for ones that have all the numbers on them.
There you
Yeah.
You don't really go with a 20 though.
Yeah.
And yeah, Robbie, how about you?
Oh, I went into a game shop the day I got my phone call. I couldn't do online, and I was like, D&D, help! And I love the guy in there because he was so sweet, but he could not have been more disinterested. He was like, yeah, they're over here, and I was literally like, which ones are for D&D? And he's like, these. And I was like, what are the heaviest, most gold ones? And those are the ones I bought.
Yes.
In back of my head, I was thinking, this guy doesn't know I'm gonna be on Critical Role, bitch.
Yeah.
I bought that one, and then they betrayed me over and over again, and I started to just gobble up any more. I bought some off of Etsy. I bought some with a stupid monster eye in it, and then I had a moment like right before we were starting where I was looking online and I found one made out of human bone, and I was sitting there at like 2 in the morning just going, is this the moment where my life changes irrevocably forever? Do I buy my first human body part made out of dice? And I decided against it. But if I play again, I might have to get those murder rocks. I don't know.
No, dude. Like legit. And I talked to Marisha about this. Like, I want to be in my will that when I pass away, like, ashes made into gemstones and put on rings and then passed out as magical artifacts.
Nice.
I want to have bones put into dice and like be passed on as relics. Like, I got plans to be that creepy dude when I die.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Just he wants to be the cursed item.
Very
Yeah.
Catholic of
Yeah.
you, Matt.
Very Catholic. It is very Catholic.
I want stories to be told about people that received me and then their lives fell apart.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm all about that.
How Horcruxes work.
Oh, you know what?
I'll be back, Liam. You laugh.
It's gonna be like E8 leather bound in your skin is the first one.
I want this face to be the front of the Necronomicon, all like, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
I love this for you.
For both of you, on a scale of Laura to Liam, after your 8 episodes of VXU, do you think that are you on the Liam end of the spectrum, or you think the universe is cold and uncaring and doesn't give a shit about you, and the dice don't matter, just you roll and you get what you get? Or are you on the Laura side where you think that dice are imbued with qualities and magic and strength, and do you favor ones over another?
I started there, ended at Liam. When I was like rolling 13s, and I was like, you motherfucker, I paid $200 for you. So I started there. I was like, which one am I gonna use today? And they all failed me in the end, but it's fine. They told the story.
You're talking to the kid that was convinced when he was 5 years old that if I stared at a flame long enough, I could make it move. I was pretty sure I had ESP.
I did that too.
You did? Yay!
Yes, especially after watching Matilda. Did anyone get into that after Matilda?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
I'm like, where's Danny DeVito? Please come. Yeah.
So I think that we're tapped into, maybe the universe can just go just a little bit. But if it did, it was not blowing on my dice this 8 rounds for sure.
Yeah, you had some rough rough rolls, buddy.
Woo!
I feel like no one had worse roles than Matt.
Oh,
It's the DM's curse.
Really?
Every time I've ever been
thing.
a player, but I will say, they're bad all the time, but then occasionally come together when it's needed most.
Okay.
Story dice.
Exactly.
I love story dice.
I'm happy for that. I'm happy for that spread. And to be fair, I love failing. Like, to me, that's where the real fun of the RPG comes in. Because, like, succeeding is fine. And sometimes it can be really fun. But failure, if you lean with it, can just be so much more fun because it makes everyone else around you go, no! And you're like, yeah, you got to deal with it now.
I feel like honestly at the arc, and I think hopefully when people watch it, I feel like luck shifted for me. Like, and it helped with my character arc. Like, I was just real dog shit. And I felt like finally by the end, I was like manifesting some decent roles and doing some cool shit. And I thought that was fun for my character arc too, because he was so sort of unsure of himself in the beginning, and then but that's just the way it rolled. I could have just stayed a sad sack, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, the moment you like decided what you wanted to happen, the dice were like, all right, you just had to make a choice. Here we go. I do the thing a little bit.
I was just tough loving you, you know?
Yeah.
Just
Builds character.
It's being gaslit by your dice.
yeah.
You don't want that.
You had it in you all along. I don't know. Speaking of story dice, Aabria,
Ooh, hi.
what was it like playing in the sandbox that is Exandria, and not only playing in that sandbox, but having the person who created it at the table with you?
It was, I think I said it in like the original interview where I was like, it's so exciting and horrifying. And that stayed true the whole fucking time. Please understand that it was like, at no point did you ever make me not feel comfortable. So please understand that was just me going like, all right, I want to try to do something here and like reach out. And this is at the end where we can talk about it. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever done in a game in my entire life was be Gilmore to you. I was
so good.
I didn't sleep the night before. I was just like, do not fuck this up. This is your favorite NPC, and it's everyone else's, and it's Matt's, and we're just gonna go in and do this. And this is like it was one of those things where I was like, there's no ripcord for this. Like, there's no way for me to go like, never mind, do something else in Iman. Like, it had to happen for you guys to go forward. So that like, well, we're doing it. Okay. What was the voice? Like, as you guys were like coming in, I was like listening to like episodes to be like, okay, what was the voice again? Write down a phrase to remember. Oh God. So
it was perfect.
It was wonderful.
It was so fun.
Like,
perfect.
genuinely probably one of my strangely surreal positive moments to date, like top, because it's weird. It's weird to create things and then watch it take on its own life with other people. To me, it's a very wonderful experience. It's unique to have that then turn back on you and engage you, the creator, with the thing you created from somebody else, making it even more alive. Like, that I didn't think that we'd ever be going to meet Bill Gilmore, and the more that began to come up in the narrative, I was like, oh my God, is this gonna happen? And then when it happened, like, I felt like, I don't know, I got weirdly emotional about it, and also felt like a 6-year-old getting to the Christmas tree in the morning. I don't know, it was so cool. It was so cool.
Well, and beyond that, I thought, Daryax was kind of like an off type role for Matt, I feel like, personally. But Daryax works great because you could kind of play dumb in your own world.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. Daryax was designed to be unlike any other character I've really played. I'm used to playing, the very like sit back and support, fill out roles that are needed, to be the voice of reason, to be the person that helps other people when they're struggling with coming up with something, to kind of come in there and lift them up. No, he's just a full chaos demon. He's just a tumbleweed of a person, and I told Travis this. I'm like, I kind of wanted to take a page from Travis's book of impulse role playing and try it out because I've never done that before.
Oh,
and
plain as day, and it was super endearing.
oh, it was so much fun.
Good.
It was so much fun, and like much like Travis's point, being able to have everyone else be careful and guarded, and like a mystery present itself, and everyone be like, okay, how do we carefully approach this? Be like, I'm already running,
There, yeah.
and they're like, no, like that is a joyous moment. I love it.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it was great.
Well, before we get too deep into that, because I do want to start jumping into more story-specific stuff, but we can't talk about the story without having Anjali Bhimani. Hey! Viera Rai!
Hi.
Snuck in on
I
us.
missed you so much.
Welcome back!
Please, you had so much that you had to do, and I couldn't come help you and save you because of my stupid sisters.
Anjali was also watching from the sidelines, and it was great because she kept texting me, being like, shit, I know that they should do this. Why aren't they doing this thing? And I was like, I feel your pain. I know.
Exactly.
She's like, I need to text them. I'm like, you can't. It's done. It's already done.
Don't make it worse.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, it's so good to be back here.
Welcome back. And I mean, back to the EXU table again, but also you're a Critical Role alumni. So, I mean, people may know you from Undeadwood. You've kind of been around, done a few things with us, but what was it like jumping in EXU?
I feel like Aimee maybe like 2 shows in, like where I'm like, what you are experiencing now was my first experience here when we did Undeadwood.
Yeah.
Where I was like, please don't make me leave. I just want to sleep under this table forever.
Yeah.
I'll wake up in the morning and do whatever it takes. And now every time, like, I get so excited when I get a call or get a text from you guys to do anything, because it's just, I know that what's about to happen is unlike any experience you have as an actor anywhere else and any experience you have as a person anywhere else. There's something about the collaborative storytelling that happens in this place and with the people that you guys bring together that is just, oh wow. It's unlike anything that I've experienced anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I've experienced some cool shit, but this is pretty fantastic. And this was the first time I got to play straight D&D with you guys.
Yeah.
Which was a whole different level of like strangely intimidating.
What?
Because I
would
felt,
never have thought that.
Exactly. Because I was like, because this is your world. When we were coming together to play different game systems or one that you had kind of adapted for that Doom one shot, it just felt very different. But then to come in and be like, no, like I have to read all of the books, and I have to read the Critical Role book.
Read the book.
I have to read the Critical Role book and like, know all of the people and know all of the terms. And she's gonna give me lore, and I have to memorize it because I'm Indian and I'm an A+ student.
You got an A+ for what it's worth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank God, Mom. Someone call my mom. I did go to mommy. So yeah, it's just been it's breathtaking to come back and to get to meet new people who are killing it. I mean, Robbie and I knew each other, and Ashley and I had met even though not in game, but I had never met Aimee. And the day that we got to do a play test together was the first time that we met, and I was like, oh shit. No, see, it's like I'm like such a fangirl. Like I would have thought that you'd been doing this forever because you came in. It was so inspiring. Like I went home and I was like, okay, but like here's the thing, just like talking about you because every choice, like truly, and I think we all felt this way. Like when we did a thing, I don't remember what episode. But after we took a break and we asked Aabria, like, did you guys plan that interaction? Because it seemed like
So organic.
so organic and just you're just like commitment to this character was so fucking inspirational. So thank you. She's a very self-empowered character, so it's fun to step into someone who's maybe a little more that than I feel when I'm stepping in.
That's kind of the magic of role-playing games.
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
exactly.
You get to create something that's in some ways like you, but in some ways can be aspirational And then by living in that space, kind of make steps towards becoming a little more like that aspiration. You know, that's my life.
And I mean,
I'm much more a functional human being today than I would have been when I was a younger, nerdy, introverted kid, because through role-playing games, I learned to be, a little bit outside of that shell incrementally.
It's also a test ground for how you interact with people in general, is sort of what I experienced, because if you're really into the role-playing and you're like connected to your character and what choices they would make, even if you're not in that mind, even if you're new like me and you have to make that choice, well, that's what Robbie wants to do. That's not what Dorian wants to do. And the way that I would interact with your character would be completely different how Robbie would. And it was fun to explore those things, not just from like an actor standpoint, but just as a person. How do you approach someone that perhaps you're not as comfortable with as you could be or should be? And what would a person that's lesser or better than you or different than you do? And that for me was like not just an acting experiment, but like a psychology experiment.
Yeah,
it was really fun.
That was that dynamic was extra juicy for me.
For sure.
Study of humanity, for sure. And on top of all of that, it's also tabletop role-playing games are a friend maker. Yeah. Because some of us have known each other a long time, but I've only know you by your work before this, and I've worked with you, but like it doesn't take many games till everybody, and I've only played on Zoom with you one time before EXU. And it doesn't take much to like pull a group together, and you find like friend nooks and crannies and
100%.
Well, it takes a lot because you have to be like vulnerable. Everyone has to be vulnerable, and everyone has to kind of be on the same level of vulnerability, or else if you have that one person that's like, this is lame, then it's going to make everyone feel embarrassed and silly and stupid. So I think it can, like you said, kind of fast track relationships in that way.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys all got pretty close throughout.
I mean, we do have a group chat.
We have a group chat.
Yeah.
I love the group chat.
And what I did find interesting just watching, because I wasn't sure, like, because I watched from the sidelines the whole time. And, we kind of anticipate these shorter run games or these one shots to be a little bit more slapdick and silly. But I was actually kind of surprised at how quickly, especially the newbies, jumped in and weren't afraid to be vulnerable, have a little bit of inter-party conflict, kind of make those tough choices. Was there any question for anybody in all about just kind of exploring those deeper sides of your characters?
I found myself wondering in advance how deep it would get, but we have a very good GM. A very good GM who gave us a long campaign feel to, a limited run. And I thought, I've run one-shots, just single one-shots, and those are often very railroaded because you're telling a story in a small amount of time, but this was longer, and it gave all of us enough time for you to let everything breathe and let us knock into each other. And it definitely got a little deeper than I thought it might, and I loved that there was headbutting and inter-party shit.
Yeah.
And a share of slapdickery. I mean, we started.
Sure.
The rooftops of Amon.
Yep. Peeing and pooping off a rooftop.
Yeah.
Right, literal pissing contest.
When you have a monkey who flings fiery poop, that's a pretty amazing,
Gatling gun.
come on.
Yes.
I love the fun. Kind of talking and thinking about trying to build this campaign, I think the weird thing to try to mash together is, one, I am a very goofy improv comic, so my tendency is towards let's make a bunch of Gatling gun jokes and chase that the third round of a Herald, and it'll be a nightmare. How do you do that for 8 weeks? But also knowing so much about the DNA of Critical Role is so deeply invested in that emotional arc for a character, and then going, all right, now you have 8 weeks to fake it. How do you get them there that fast while knowing that I can't let you run anywhere you want to go. We have to get to certain things because this is a limited run. And there were some set pieces in the end that I was if they turn the wrong way and they don't do this, oh, Nox is gonna be real mad. Okay. So I think if I can pat myself on the back a little bit, the thing I am proudest of was giving you the ability to feel like you had a lot of room to breathe and interplay with each other, and then be you're getting where you need to go. That's fine. You chose it for yourselves, and I'm not railroading you. keep covering the tracks. We're good. You're good. Keep going. Any direction, not that way.
Watching from afar after Vera took off and abandoned you, I was so amazed when you guys did go the direction that you did. Because I was totally expecting you to go another way. And then everything turned out the way it did. And I was like, oh, thank God I wasn't there. I would have said, no, let's take care of your other I'll go down there and you guys go ahead. But that was, sorry, I'm getting excited I'm getting all excited about and then you did this. Remember when you did this? That was awesome. I'm like that Chris Farley SNL sketch. Remember the time that you did that thing? Remember when you did that? The thing. Yeah, that was awesome. It was so good.
That is the version of this story that my husband heard as we were recording it. It was just me coming home and giving the world's worst play-by-play. I'm just remembering cool stuff and then explaining it and be like, oh, but before that there was this. And then my ADD hit and I was like, but then this thing happened. All right, just watch it when it comes out. It's fine. You're fine.
Well, to keep patting your back, one of my favorite things in games is to watch good GMs do their thing. That's part of what, drew us to reach out to you to do this. But it is such a delicate balance, to your point of trying to convey interesting narrative threads and let the players make the choices and to follow the paths and to dangle enough interesting points where they still guide the path, the immediate path, but still kind of fall in the line of where you hope they go to follow the macro story that you've prepared and built out. And, like you said, with the short form where you don't have the flexibility of letting that take as much time as it wants, to get them to that point is a very, very specific skill. And you rocked that shit because we never felt that way. It never felt that way. And it was, you're awesome.
Oh, thanks. The best. It's also just once you have that table trust where I'm okay, I'm going to say a group of things. Have you guys ever played, there's a card game called The Mind, which is just, you literally, it's just cards numbered 1 through 100 and you shuffle, you deal a hand and you have to non-verbally put them in the center pile in ascending order. So you have to figure out how to communicate non-verbally with okay, I have the next card, I'm gonna go. Is yours a little bit higher than mine? Should I go? So there's this very cool balance that I don't know, I feel as a DM, playing that game with you all going I'm not trying to tell you where to go, but I feel we all know what we're doing here, so I'm gonna trust you. So that table trust of the players and being you guys are all as much of a storyteller as me. I just have the general longer view on this than the rest of you, but we're all gonna tell it together. So just kind of trusting the table to do everything. So I'm gonna bounce that compliment out that you guys are phenomenal. And
Absolutely.
It was the easiest thing in the world to do because of you.
Matt kind of mentioned, loving watching the GM do her thing. Does anyone else have any favorite moments, any highlights that stick out at you in looking back?
With Aabria?
No, it doesn't have to be.
From the campaign.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but also I remember when we were when you'd built out this the hole, and immediately we're
hole?
oh, the ash hole, and you were just okay, we'll just call it the ash hole, and I can it felt such a cool we're just gonna roll with it, but that's just who you are, and that was just such a gift, such a cool, not just that, but at every step I felt oh, she's just, I guess making it up as she goes, but obviously that's not it. But a really great performer and GM would do that. You're just well, I can do that. And it's no, but you can't. You make it look so effortless, I guess is the compliment I'm trying to pay you. And it made me feel so comfortable as a new player.
So your favorite moment is right here.
Yeah.
That's what you're
Just
trying
my
to
favorite moment is just Aabria. But I have to say, maybe the pageant was a good one too. That was maybe a highlight, a story highlight.
So fun.
It was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, there's actually a question here about the pageant, and
Bye, Roden.
man, it still might be my favorite moment from watching. It was just so good, and I do think it was brilliant having the people who were my character wouldn't participate but you give them NPCs because
Not
Anjali's rival to Opal.
I mean, that
not
was such a highlight.
Darya's coming in with a "I got you, boo."
Yeah.
I was gonna let that shit fly.
That was
I was
Nothing like a
Got your
good
back.
part.
It was so
like,
good.
can you? Okay, so give us a little bit of insight into that for anyone who wasn't participating, but you got because you handed out like little NPC cards.
Everyone had an
Names.
index card with like a character with like a couple
2 or
prompts.
3, like you like this and you don't like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which he didn't have to use. I was like, I just don't want to leave you like completely out to dry. Like, congratulations, you're in the middle of an improv scene. Go.
What was the name of your lady? Do you remember? Oh, she was
Can't
a
remember.
trip.
She was that was one of my favorite moments. Is you getting Cinna getting
Bright bow, Cinna Bright bow, was that it? It was Cinna something
I
bow.
think they all had like something vaguely rock to do with themselves, like Cinnabar.
Yeah.
Everyone had
nice.
something.
Yeah.
She was just
where
happy to
she
be
was
there.
throwing axes at you.
Yeah.
Where you were throwing axes at yourself.
Yeah, I knew.
So good.
I did. Orem is not a showy person, so he wouldn't have gotten involved. So I liked abusing my own character. Thank you for that.
Such a great idea. So good.
And what did you make up the whole like this is the perfect character to be Opal's rival? Was that
I kind of felt like it needed to. She needed a foil.
yes?
She needed a foil.
So cool.
I'll tell you what I didn't really expect was that So when I got the card, the name was spelled Lisle.
Yeah.
Right? And I decided it was Lyle. No, because AISLE is Isle. So LISLE should be Lyle. And I said it out loud and you repeated it back to me and I immediately thought, that's not how you pronounce that name. But I am Lyle. I am Lyle, goddammit.
You made a choice. I went, what are letters?
Yeah.
You're fine.
Letters are a construct.
Yes, exactly. So Lyle. Lyle.
To that point, Byrodin as a location,
By Roden.
I've fleshed out in my mind in a very like loose way because we never went there. Because as you know, when you're GMing, like you only flesh out as much as you really need to, because otherwise you break as a human being and turn to ash. So it wasn't until that we were going to Byrodin in the story, I went, oh my God, I get to experience Byrodin and I have no idea what to expect because I had nothing really established for it. And so it was one of the coolest experiences to go to a place in Exandria that I knew of and had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Basically a footnote, really, until now.
Yeah.
Now it's very fleshed out. And there's something in the water in Byrodin that makes twins. Because-
Right?
Yeah. Well, like when I remember asking Aabria and Matt, like when I was coming up with Opal, because she's really kind of inspired by a friend of mine, not like the character traits, but like where she's from. My friend is from Laredo, Texas, and I just always found it like so interesting that they just had like this rich culture that had nothing to do with anything else. And so I was like, where would she be from? Like, I want like a loud but small town that's like really culturally kind of like a little bubble. Like, where is that place? Far from everywhere, kind of like a one-road place, by the road. So, I don't know, it was really fun to do that.
I think one of my favorite moments was, I think it was like right before one of the playtests. You were leaning over and asking Matt about Byrodin because you like wanted something for your backstory, and I was like, "Don't look at him.
Look at him.
Yeah, like, I'm the GM.
No, I'm the GM, and we're gonna have to talk."
I love
Yep.
it. I love
I have ideas.
it. It was so good.
Those were some of my favorite moments with you.
Yes.
Because we're especially us, we're so conditioned to look to Matt. And I loved when those moments happened where you were just like, hey, I'm running this game.
Yes.
Eyes here.
Yes.
And I was just like, oh man, I just was so inspired how you came into this space and were just like, my space, my room, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I just like, I'm so impressed by you and so blown away by this whole everything. I adore you.
Well, jumping off of that, because I am curious to hear from Ashley and Liam about what it was like to go and visit Byrodin, this kind of new Byrodin that the twins were from, which now I'm trying to imagine Vex and Vex from Byrodin.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, that's why they turned out the way they did. I understand.
Makes a lot of sense in
Makes a lot of sense.
Oh, that fucking pageant.
Fuck this fucking pageant.
For sure, you had to be
Oh,
Pat.
back
Like
to
for
back,
sure.
totally the goth kids that had nothing to do with it,
Yeah.
like sat in the way back going like, this is such bullshit.
But maybe like one year, like they were made to do it. I don't
Yes.
know. Like,
Yeah, I could see
just
Bex
one
being
year,
pushed
like,
into
just
it.
fucking push them onto the
100%.
stage.
My favorite thing about EXU, I came into this to a little bit be an audience member in my own game. Like I've designed Orem to be support, which I was a little bumped by everyone going like, where should we go, Orem? I'm like, no, I'm not the leader. But I really loved watching everyone who came to visit, and I kind of consider you as a visitor in this game too, just because I'm so used to you being over there, and you were having so much fun. Just following your own nose this whole game. And so like getting to see you put on a different hat and just have fun, and getting to see you come back after, I mean, CR Cast watched Undeadwood together for the first time and we're blown away by it. So to have you come and join us has been, I'm just so glad that you're part of this tapestry now. Mm-hmm. Seeing you, and I know how much experience you have, and I know that like, of course you came in here and owned it because, you know, like everyone talks about, you know, overnight success after 10 years of work, right?
Right, yeah.
But to see you like pick up this world that has been eight-ish years in the making, and then just make it your own is beautiful. And I would just be like, fall out of character and just be like, listening to you narrate. And then my favorite part is just you two noobs watching you see how in depth it goes. Because anyone who comes and joins us for a game has fun. And you do slapdick humor and it's funny and there's jokes get slung around, but it's only if you stay for a little while where it starts to sink in. And to see you like negotiate with a queen of spiders in such like an emotionally, morally fraught situation, and to see you at the end, like to the choice to put that crown on, you're the devil, for you to put that crown on was such an interesting moment in the story. And you know, we're all just playing make-believe and making stuff up and pulling shit out of our ass, but it's more than that. And there's so much magic. It's like a theater lab. For me, it's always been like the best shit you get out of a rehearsal room, because you can try anything. You fail, so what? Magic happens. And
But it's
love
very
watching
inspiring watching you and Ashley and Matt and Aabria, because, and everyone, but like the more experienced players, and because you give permission, you set the tone. So like I came into it not knowing, like, is this a comedy? Like, what are we doing? And then like just watching you all take your time and not rushing through things and not being afraid to, I don't know, like dig into the deep emotional truth of your characters was like very inspiring. And to have Aabria give us that kind of room to do that gave me permission to do that. So
Yeah.
thanks.
I kind of want to jump into that a little bit. We've done a lot of above the table talk, but I kind of want to like get into the meat of some of your all's characters, and especially like the journeys that you all went through. I mean, I feel like Opal, I guess give me just a little bit of insight, give us a little bit of insight, because were you intending from the beginning to kind of develop a coming of age character, someone who could learn, or was that anticipated?
Well, it's funny. I was telling my therapist about it today. I was like, what does
Yes.
this mean?
That's the realest shit. It is the best.
I was like,
Therapists know
About our D&D game.
Yeah.
I did this weird thing in my D&D game, and
was it me or was it the
D&D
character?
game.
I don't know. Well, I was like, what does this say about where I'm at? That I'm like, but yeah, I wanted, for some reason, well, first of all, can I talk about how it started? Like, can we talk about that?
Like the pregame stuff? And,
Yeah.
Oh, in discovering it? Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So originally I wanted to play two characters in one body, which was hard. So we didn't go that route, and thank God we didn't, because I think that would have been a lot. But I did want to tell a story of like, what's it like when because Aabria had mentioned before our playtest that this story was going to be like about power, about your first encounter with power. Is that a thing you said? Okay. I'm like, man, I made that up. And I was like,
Yeah, I said it.
yeah. And I was like, what happens when you have your first brush with, like, you think you know everything when you're young, and then the world just sort of doesn't break you down. I mean, I guess you could look at it that way, but it's like, oh wait, no, it's not like that. Oh wait, no, I'm not the best. Oh wait, but everyone told me I was the best. Why am I not the best? Why am I not succeeding at this? And I thought that was really interesting to hash out, I guess. And so Opal is also, like me, new to the world. And I always like to say that it's like her first tour, on the planet. Like this, she's not an old soul. She's a completely new soul. And I thought it was really cool the way that Aabria took her from that to actually having to make like really difficult decision about her sister. And all she wanted to do was individuate. That's all she wanted. And then in the end, that's the one thing she didn't actually want.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting.
No, that is fascinating. That is such a youthful wish too.
Right? Be like, I don't need this fucking town.
Yes.
I don't need my sister. Yeah. And then you're like, oh wait, no, actually those things are the
Really
things I want.
important to me.
Yeah.
And putting that crown on was such a moment of like what life ends up being, which is like compromise and difficulty and not what you thought it was going to be when you were a kid, and such a great moment.
Yeah, but what did you all think about that moment, the moment that Opal pulled on the crown?
Relief. I was.
I got one.
Put on that fucking crown.
If you want to talk about what we talked about with our therapist, I was rabid about these fuckers took a vestige and they just holding it. And every week I was like,
that arcade machine with the claw going like, I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna get one.
how are you feeling about the crown? No? Okay. What about you? Well, you want it? Someone want this crown?
Yeah, but it ended up just being a utility, though. That's the most interesting part of like how that happened. It wasn't necessarily, like Frodo going, "No, I'll keep it." It was him in the bar going, "I need to be invisible, right?" Or you know what I mean? Like it was out of utility, and maybe that's what saved us. I'm not sure yet. I guess I know it's over, but for me, it feels like it's just the beginning.
Questions about what happens next, because I don't know if this was the intended effect, but I was really scared of it. You made it seem like a really bad thing to do. So I didn't want to fucking touch that.
I love that it was you. Mm-hmm. I just love, because it just felt like the last person that it would have been.
Yeah.
But I was so nervous too, because when you were sitting there and you had this choice, and I was like, how do we help her in this moment? But if I wanted to encourage you to put on the crown, but I also was like, but what if she dies? And then I'm gonna feel awful. Yeah. And then I was just like, I don't know what to do in this moment.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad you did it. The one of my favorite things was seeing the two of you just play with such courage, having never played this game. You guys jumped head first, and it was so exciting to watch. And also, side note, I love playing with you, Matt. Holy shit.
Yay.
Every game I would go home and I was like, oh my God, Ryan, this was the best. I love playing with Matt. He's playing a character that's not his usual, what he usually plays. And it's so fun seeing him just have fun and be chaotic.
What's her name? Thyla Twarp.
Tharla Star.
That's different.
Come on.
Equally graceful,
Yeah.
but that's different.
That was so good.
That was
my God,
that was maybe my
Star.
favorite. Actually, I think that's what my favorite.
I don't know where the fuck that came from, but
We know you have a drag queen deep down inside.
Dariax could
We
totally get into
know.
drag.
I'm talking about Matt Mercer,
Yeah.
but Dariax, sure. Yeah.
I'm a little past my prime, but I don't know. One day maybe.
The way you were telling the story, maybe Fern had put on the crown at some point, because we saw evil Fern, which I'm have 100 questions about.
Keep calling her evil Fern. I don't think I said that.
No, you didn't. You didn't say evil.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, I'm she must have put it on at some point.
At some point.
Me,
My bad.
Fern makes a ton of sense because she's so impulsive and so primal, and I don't know that necessarily choices like that even go through her head. I don't know. This is your character. This
Fern
is my
is the
perception.
scariest. Fern is the scariest character out of
In
all
a
of you.
team full of wild cards, she's the wildest for me.
Yes.
Well,
Agreed.
She lacks a classic spectrum of morality that you expect from the normal civilized heroic individual. That doesn't mean she's good or evil. It's just a different concept of morality in the world, because where she comes from is a wild place where things are topsy-turvy and different, and that is exciting.
It works differently.
Yeah.
That was the thing. I was like, oh, you don't know if this is like a construct or some like apparition or just you later or before and you don't remember. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. This is just a Oh, I know. And there's a meeting we can have about it later, but don't worry about that yet.
Oh man.
Okay. Oh shit. Okay.
Room. I want to meet her family. I want to just like meet her ex. Like I don't know. Like I
I
just
know who
a
the
lot.
figures were that were walking around in the background behind Dark Fern.
Oh, the rest of the encounter.
I want just like there's and also but speaking of that kind of like not normal morality or not the common morality, there was just there's such a simplicity to how you played everything as Fern, including the searing violence of that direwolf going in
So good.
and wrecking shop on someone's head, but the simplicity of it and it just being like, this is what I want. And like it's so beguiling. Yes. You know, the same as when you solved the Pascha nightmare and we're like, I'm going to cast Charm Person. I don't think I want like this simplicity of like I'm doing what I want from moment to moment and I'm judging it I'm evaluating that based on how do I feel about this?
Yeah. And talk about courage. That's courageous. To have no bag of tricks. To just be like, I'm just gonna, like, I'm like, ah!
That was
Warm, saccharine id.
A lot of some of the inspo for Fern was Harold and Maude is one of my favorite movies, and Maude, I just love her as a character, and I also wanted to play somebody who's 112 because fawns live forever, and I loved that she just. In Harold and Maude, when she's talking about the flowers, and she's just like, they're so beautiful. Some are bigger, some are smaller, and just how her whole like, I was like, okay, that's a good start. But I think having played Yasha for the 3 years, I think for me, which we've talked about of like how I feel like D&D is a little bit of therapy for me, and. There's no way for some parts of you to not come out in a character. And I feel like where I was at in my life was really kind of lined up with where Yasha was. I was away from home and I felt kind of like stuck. But this go around, I was like, I want to do something just kind of fun and weird where there's no bumpers on the gutters, where it's just like, well, let's just go and see what happens. And it's so fun. It's so fun because always seeing Travis of just pushing the button and just, it's a blast. It's a blast.
Your id is a little spookier.
Yes. Well, I also me as a person, I'm a little left of center, maybe a lot, where there's I see him a certain way, but there's a darkness brewing underneath.
Oh yeah.
And occasionally it comes out.
I want to see. I want to see Pool Hall Ashley one of these days.
Yeah, Pool Hall Ashley. Yeah.
It's so funny though. I don't see that. I never saw you as spooky or id or scary. There was just it was just like a simple. I mean, I envied Fern the simplicity of her decisions. Because there wasn't there was the caring about your friends, but it was based on the feelings, or it seemed like it was just based on the feelings as they came up. Like at the end, when you said like, I don't want to leave you because that just thinking about that just makes me very, very sad. Like it's simple, so simple, like that decision made sense.
Yeah.
And then you did that throughout the campaign in the craziest of moments.
Yeah.
And so like maybe I need to meet a therapist and have a conversation about it. Because I'm playing a character that's all bound by duty to save everyone.
I don't know what this character says about me and my life journey right now, you know? But we'll see.
It is a little bit like kid logic. Fern has kid logic. Like,
Yeah.
Robert,
I don't want to do this thing. It makes a boo-boo and it hurts.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, babe?
I thought Robbie was going to say something.
No, I've forgotten now. It's just.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks, though.
You're welcome.
But I think, sorry, go ahead.
You're the GM.
I do want to compliment you one more because I think like we can call it kid logic a lot, but like even just sort of like the crunchier druids are overpowered. They are so strong and there's so much mechanically to them that like, I don't know, with that added context, it always felt like this isn't kid logic. I just think Fern's not worried because she's gonna be fine. Like, do you know what I mean? The like repercussions probably won't hit her. And I think that's what gives it that like insidious edge of like, I'll do whatever I want because I'm gonna walk it off.
Yeah.
And like that's terrifying and I love it.
It was interesting because when not to just be like, let's talk about Fern, but when you know when you had the question of what does she fear, I think she loves her family, but I think to that point, I don't think she's scared of things. And which is kind of a weird choice to make for a character because usually as an actor you're like, these are my fears, these are the things that I like, these are the and it's kind of it's weird playing that of just like, well, I don't know, let's just keep going and this is something that could be scary but not for me. Still figuring it out though. But yeah.
Was Fern ever in trouble? Did she ever heal outside of a short or long rest? Was she ever hurt? I don't recall Fern ever being
One
hurt.
time.
She took some damage.
Yeah,
I took
feel
some
good.
damage, but
well, you burned her the one time.
Oh, yeah, in the playtest.
I just remember distinct moments of being worried about everyone else except for Fern.
It's hard to hit, like as a DM, it's hard to hit a druid, like a low level druid. I'm like, okay, I gotta chew through. Oh, this is dire wolf still up.
Yeah, I gotta get through the
Cool,
dire wolf
cool.
HP first.
I remember both in the playtest and in the campaign not being afraid for her physically, but being afraid for her choices. Like particularly when we showed that first episode when I came in and she was like, I might go through the portal, and I was like, no, you will, bad dog. Like this is not gonna happen.
One way to break a character.
Sorry?
So hit points is just one way to break a character.
Exactly. And it again, it's so fun to play with that person who is like, I'm gonna lean into the thing that I shouldn't lean into, because everyone around you is like, that could go horribly wrong.
with that Matt was saying, it's then everybody has to deal with that. And you're like, well,
That's exciting.
That's
too.
pretty fun.
And it was like Liam, when you kept having to deal with being so pissed at these two for having the vestige in the first place and being so worried about that all the time. Like that dynamic was so dope.
Yeah.
That like,
Yeah.
so that when she put the crown
I like
on at
that
the
a
end,
lot.
I didn't know if you were gonna come hauling ass at her with a sword.
Yeah, Liam, how is Orem doing with this group that he kind of fell into? How is Orem?
It's not what he anticipated. Yeah, man. I mean, anyone who's watched Campaign 2 knows how morally ambiguous or complicated Caleb was, and this guy, I wanted him to be more. I've always wanted to play halfling, always. And I just wanted to play somebody with a purer heart. He's a little bit like Keyleth, a little bit, and I meant for him. I really designed him to not be the person who made decisions and dragged everyone along with him, but who was just there to help everyone around him in the way that he could. And the chemistry of the group was very dangerous, very chaotic. And he liked everybody in the group. He really, really liked Dorian a lot and saw so much good in him. And it wasn't what the fuck, I'm gonna kick your ass. It was seeing someone that you think has so much good and so much potential and so much heart mingling with something that could be dangerous to them. And Liam, not Orem, but Liam in the back is like, yeah, conflict! Put that fucking crown on, Opal! Yeah!
Let's chew into that. Robbie.
Yes.
Dorian.
What were you gonna do with that shit?
My thirst
question.
trap, Dorian. Mr. Sexy Pants. I loved watching Dorian and his journey, and you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier with the dice and the dice kind of following you on this story. Because I was referring to talking to my crew a lot, and I was like, oh, Dorian has such nice guys finish last syndrome, where you're just kind of like striking out, and then it all kind of came around at the end. But you had such an interesting journey, and it wasn't devoid of a little bit of conflict and a little bit of questioning of yourself. What made you even like want to follow that journey? Was that the intent of Dorian?
No. Nothing of his build is how he shook out at all. And I think that speaks to what we've all been talking about, is that that requires like trust in the other players, the GM, and then sort of like lack of ego, because as soon as his build was done and I decided that's what I was going to play after our play tests, after our first encounter, I was like, nothing that I think I want to do is going to shake out with this group, because like I saw him being more of like a Han Solo kind of chaos, roguish type character, and the more I play with these guys, my own build of him and personality of myself came out, and I found myself being more of a voice of reason, caring more deeply about the characters than I thought. And I always wanted him to be chaotic good. And then I found as the more things that I got encountered with, the less good that he was. And it was less about like an inline morality and more about his dedication to his friends, which once that started to happen, especially with the bond with Orem, the through line that for me that Dorian started to take was that friends above all else. All else. I wanted to like play this like reverse anime trope. Like I don't know, this might not be your audience, maybe it is. Like there's this cheesy ass
In this room?
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Yes.
So there's the cheesy ass like I can do anything with my friends. And once we got into like episode 3 and the circuit came into play, I kind of had this idea of a through line that was sort of like I can do anything with my friends. Fuck up the entire universe for my friends. And so as it went on, the more I was dedicated to the party. I don't know if you guys, but I wanted to make this choice that Dorian was always going to put maximum responsibility on his friends. That's why I didn't want to give the crown to Gilmore. That's why he didn't trust anybody else. That's why I gave it's such a hard time. And that was the thing that, because he never had any and he was so cloistered, all of a sudden he found what he was looking for in his journey, and he was not willing to let that go in any way. So I think that's where a lot of his choices started coming from, and it started to make him a little more morally ambiguous. He didn't trust anybody else with the crown. He didn't trust anybody else with anything except for his crew.
I mean, Matt and Dariax agree with Dorian to that degree. Yeah, man, Dorian's whole journey was fascinating.
Fascinating.
To your point, because he comes in very much that kind of, plucking bard in the background with that sort of confidence. And I think maybe been, to your point, the comparison of these chaos beasts here that kind of waltzed in, but we pushed you into almost like a paternal role alongside Orem to a certain point, which is why it was fascinating to watch you two have conflict, because it was almost like the two unwanted leaders being forced into leadership roles, the two dads who are having to figure out who's going to be responsible.
Yeah, my two dads. Dad and dad are fighting. Turn the car around.
It was such shocking to me, like as a character and also as a player. I was like, oh, like what was gonna happen?
Yeah.
Well, because
devastation that you had when you were knocked down to chaotic neutral. Seeing you were just like, what? That can happen? I was just like, ooh, here we go.
but it was true.
I believe
Yeah.
with these kinds of games, playing at a table with friends and telling a story, like you have your idea of what the character is, but that's not what the character is going to be. You find out at the table through playing what the character is.
That was completely my experience of it, and I think maybe it's also why, and I'm not speaking for, maybe we made choices in our backstory to play sort of cloistered characters that were then set loose into the world, because that's my experience of the game. Like, I'm not going to step into this continent and world and know enough about it to be able to participate. So it was a smart choice, good for us, because it was like, we can just come in as sort of these, not naive, but these characters that are a little more malleable and figure out our place within the group. And that was my experience of it as a player and as a role player too. Someone learning the game and someone learning this character at the same time. Yeah.
I have another question. I know the answer to it, but I want the world to know. Tell everyone a little bit about what Dorian meant to do with that fucking crown.
What if
So good.
I mean, I don't know that it.
He may still have an opportunity.
You want to hold back? Don't share anything you don't want to share.
I will share this. It was never. That's the thing that hurt my feelings the most as Dorian, is your disappointment, as Orem's disappointment in Dorian about the decision to keep it and to not give it up, is because what hurt the most was never about the crown. Not really. It was about us having it and us having stewardship of it and not wanting to give it away. And that's why it hurt, but I couldn't say that because then it didn't feel right. It felt like I was showing my motivations too much. So it was, I don't know if it was ever about Dorian really wanting it all that bad. I just wanted us to have it. Yeah. I mean, I had ideas of what to do about it if it ever came in between us though. That's something that I've been planning the whole time after I realized that if this gets in the way of the group, how do I get rid of the crown? And it never needed to happen.
Never got
No, it
it.
definitely would have gone the way you thought.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's no planning.
I do think it's interesting that the moment you like made this really strong decision that like we have to keep it, but we can't wear it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, we're playing the prince now. Like, and then like one of my favorite things as a GM is playing the corruption arc for characters, especially new ones, especially people with like a strong sense of like, this is who I am. And I'm like, bet.
Really?
Is it?
And I think like knowing what I know about your backstory with like your brother and like leadership and stewardship of a group of people, like let's play the prince now. Like what is a leader willing to do to protect the people that they care about? And that's like one of the lines in there is like, you should be willing to go to hell for your people. And I was like, all right, you're going to be the one that I'm going to focus on with this crown now. Like prove to me how much you like want to take care of them.
And I mean, you had such an interesting connection too with Fira. And just kind of, and I know you kind of had this kind of kinship. I don't want to say maternal, but you kind of had, I think, like I don't want to speak for you. You know your character better than anybody else. But I loved watching your all's connection. And there was a little bit of that from the pregame that you guys had from the test game.
Man, the pregame. Wow, that thing in the pregame.
I know.
Well,
Which we can talk about.
We can talk about it now.
We refer to the pre-games, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
We did a few, just like we did for Campaign 2, where we did a few games for everybody to get comfortable with their characters and kind of figure it out. And we have since referred to those games as canish. Some things the characters and the GM decided to keep and utilize as anchor points going into the game. And then some we were like, this is why we tested the game. That's gone now. But yeah, you guys had very kind of an interesting moment in the pregame that we kind of used as a catalyst.
Yeah, just a tiny little taste of it, which was so nice. And it was so nice too, because even the concept of canish is so, the way you brought Fiera back into the group was sort of like coming out of the birth canal and not really knowing where you're going. Like, what's happening? How am I here? And I'm here. And yet, there was all of this vague memory of what we'd done in the playtest. And we had never had any conversations about what we may or may not remember from that. So it just, at first, I had known from when I had seen what your character was that I felt that, okay, they're both Genasi. I'm gonna at least have that. You are someone else from another plane. I'm gonna have that kind of interesting kinship, but also there was definitely, I felt like an older sister thing that I felt for Dorian. So she was very intrigued by his possibility in the same way that Orem was, that she saw so much in him, and yet he kept stumbling and kept stumbling and kept stumbling. So yeah, I mean, I want to talk about the playtest, but it's so I don't.
I think they're asking us to. I think they're saying like because it became canon the minute that Aabria unlocked my memory. Right. So we had a moment where we traveled to another realm and we were all there and everything went down. And at the final moments of that, someone was trying to be the last person out, and I was like, no, you go ahead, and it was just me and you. Right. And I took the circlet, dipped out, and let the portal close, and left you behind in the fucking nether realm. Yeah, it was
the second pocket universe.
Yeah,
there was even a little bit more to it that was even a little more like nefarious. Not nefarious.
It was just a little as close to a betrayal as you could come without like sticking a knife in your back.
Yeah. It was watching it from afar.
I kind of want to give it.
Yeah, like watching it from the sidelines. Once again, not to speak out of turn, but it was kind of when I was like, oh, I think something just clicked for Robbie. About this game, because how this works and what you can do. And you guys were having your little conflict and you were like, you go, come on, go, leave it. And she was trying to thwart your choice. And you just looked at Anji and in like cold, dead, flat words, you said, it's not your choice. And I was like,
Yep.
He gets it.
Yep.
That's a fucking story.
Yep.
Yeah, it was great. So I kind of, it was just such a palpable moment that I'm glad our GM decided to kind of
and also
sink our
that
teeth into
the
it.
rest of the gang does not know anything about that.
Yes, just between you two.
Yeah.
Just between the two of us, and that you decided because you said it in the actual campaign when he has the memory of everything. That was the first time I heard you say, yeah, she knows. She absolutely remembers it, which means I, this whole time, have been...
And you let it slide, which is ultimately, after that happened, was when I started trusting you, is when you said, when we let it slide. So, yeah. I also put Orem on a dinosaur once. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that.
A little different than sacrificing me to some dark.
It's a metaphor.
The early game.
For the record, too, we keep saying playtest. We're really just playing more fucking D&D.
Yeah, I'm so glad we had that.
Yeah.
I would be really bummed if we just had the 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we ever get to see that? I would love to watch those.
Maybe. I know that the audience is going to be like, release the hidden tapes! And I'll think about it.
See the fucking dinosaur!
There's more to that moment that I even want to see again.
That moment was excellent.
Because that moment was dark.
We didn't know each other before. Like, I'm not talking about actors. The characters had never met.
No.
Like, because I sensed so much history. Because I did miss one of the play tests. So when I came in.
Yeah, that was the first time the meeting.
First time.
They're just that good at it.
Wow. See, that's great.
But the playtest before, again, we had like, because you guys had been playing for a while, so Fiora still was coming in brand new to the gang.
Yeah.
And so, but her being her, or she being she being her. Grammar, it's a thing. There's that very take charge. I'm assessing you, you I need to protect. You I just need to laugh at. You not laugh at, but she was.
No, it's
I
fine.
felt like
I
felt like the instincts for everybody was like, I trust you. I see that you're fine. I think you're delightful, and I have to keep an eye on you to make sure you don't end up dead. You, I need to kind of teach about sibling. Like it was such a fast thing of like, I see each of you. Let's go.
Yeah.
Because that to me was the whole way that she had operated before she met all of you, because she was someone who had wanted to be traveling as two and then was one, all alone in the universe as far as she knew.
Yeah.
And so, and it took a while for her to figure out what to do with that. So it was the relationship I felt to Dorian was definitely like, okay, at least I understand Genasi. There is some connection there.
And the very
Bronte now?
Bronte.
that's you know.
Bronte.
I think I got twisted up a little bit in the lore when we first started, like the D&D lore, and it informed some of my choices. And one of the things I remember reading was like sort of the infighting and like personal preferences of the Genasi based on where they're from and what type of element they connected to. And I realize now after playing that maybe I didn't have to marry myself so much to that, but I thought it made for an interesting choice.
So
Because
interesting.
that lore, some of that lore's, I know it's there to be taken or abandoned, but some of it was there. And I remember reading their Genasi feel a little bit more elevated and looked down, and especially tend to, with the fire. And I was like, well, I'm going to play into that because my background was very traditional and cloistered and connected to the lore that I wrote for it. So
Here's the cool thing.
Yeah,
Your lore is inspired by existing lore, but it's not beholden to it because now it's beholden to her lore. It's our lore, but this was your lore.
I have a question for the GM.
Please.
Yeah.
Were you, from the get-go, when you were planning everything ahead of time, were you always going to dump a vestige of divergence, which is about as powerful a thing as you can find in this world, into a bunch of low-level dummies' hands? Was that always
That is
part of
the
the plan?
funniest thing I could think to do. So of course it was. I was like, episode 1.
And we all behaved as such. We're like, we're
do
not
that.
putting it on.
And there's so many cool ones, and like there's like room in the lore to like make up a new one. And I was like, oh, what if? No, get the bad one. I'm gonna give these chuckle fucks the bad one.
Here's the bad
one.
That would be our group name, the Chuckle Fucks. Anything else?
We never decided.
So good.
So it could be Chuckle
That
Fuck.
was also my favorite gag running throughout it. Like,
That it was
name
the
is so
vestige
strong.
of divergence. It's like, we just keep putting it in a knapsack.
It was covered.
It's a vestige.
It was covered in bananas at one point.
There's raisinets on it.
I'm just finding out that you guys had it.
Yeah.
Oh, the whole time we've been traveling, like 2 episodes. I'm sorry, you have what?
It's like having a dead body in the trunk. We're like, yeah, you want McDonald's? Yeah.
And then you were describing it, I was like, this sounds kind of... Nah, but she wouldn't.
Oh, but she did.
Oh, fuck.
I was assuming you guys were going to get rid of it really quickly. And I was like, oh, this will be interesting because I don't know what you want to do in that early game. I was like, okay, there's a lot of ways it can go. Like, you guys could have gotten like in really well with the nameless ones. And like, that would have been your ticket to basically like buy your way into the underworld of Amon. And we could have like done other stuff with that.
Shit.
Yeah. Or it like buys you trust with Gilmore. Like at so many places, like that was the thing that will allow you to punch above your weight. So I was just like, here's the thing, like you guys are level 2, but that will get you in any room you want to be in. So it was just sort of like on the back burner. I just love that you guys like wrestled with it the whole time. I was like, well, now my game is make someone wear it. Yeah. So now I'm just gonna call you all out on what I think your character weaknesses are, which is super fun for me. And I'm so sorry. There was at one point where I was like just yelling at like Dorian, and I was like, this feels mean. I'm having a good time. I'll apologize after.
Well, his feelings are very hurt. I'm just fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there were some in.
Right. I got to wear 2 crowns. A pageant crown.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I'm really nervous about what happens to Opal. I'm like, I don't know what happens to her after.
But yeah, I kind of want to ask about that because you had a pretty big oh shit moment with Ted, and that whole end with Ted trying to be brought back as a lesser idol being anchor situation.
Sometimes you just be a god or a little.
Yeah.
I like thought about it so much. I'm like, what happened to her? She dead? I don't know. Like I've like thought a lot about it. So, and I don't have the answer. Only Aabria has the answer.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw the props to you on that, by the way. When we finished that encounter, and we were like, the dust was settling, and we're all just kind of breathing heavy. And Robbie, the first thing is like, you saw that residuum? Give it to me. And it starts building connection. I was like,
So cool.
oh, my boy. My boy.
Like he's got this.
Oh.
He gets the game now.
Like,
About to make a brown man blush. Come on now.
Burgundy, my guy. Let's go.
Oh my god!
It just felt right. It felt right. We had all these questions. About why the fuck were we carrying the residuum around, and then it's the needles in her face and the symbols we don't understand, and I don't know. It just felt right.
And you had a really amazing moment where it for Opal, maybe it didn't feel like a big connecting piece, but as an audience member, where the fire symbol you learned meant like hot and fire, and it was Opal for the first time to be like, okay, so we learned that it means what it means, which is kind of a duh. But I did feel like that was kind of the catalyst and the jumping off point of putting together the runes and then utilizing them at the end of the game with scripting it out. So yeah, I think you guys actually played the long game pretty well.
And that's the journey of learning this game too. Like your first game or two, you're like, what can I do on my action?
Literally though.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you're like, I take out the residuum and I use it to draw.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I'm so happy. Sorry, go. It's something that I'm so happy to just be able to watch and be reminded of watching is that it's so much more about the storytelling than it is about the mechanics. And I did have a GM tell me once, like, quit asking for permission. Because if you keep asking for permission to do things, you're not gonna. I will likely change things for a good story.
Right.
So, tell me what you want to do, and we'll see if you can do it.
Yeah.
And I watched you freaking wrestling a sleeping belly rubbing
crocodile. Yeah.
Crocodile.
There's no more.
Finally, being from Florida has fucking paid off. There is no upside to being from Florida.
One day I'll get mine. I'm proud you got yours.
That is like the epitome of doing things outside of what's on your character sheet.
Yes. Anjali and Darya were both like so proud. So proud. And it was the test. Yeah. It was during the test. And I was like, I don't even know. Like, I, as me, was losing my shit.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, I mean, what would have happened had the famous crocodile flip not happened?
There was so much more encounter. So this is a whole thing about like proving your worth to like systems of power in the world and kind of like staking your claim as like part of the like forward progress of like Tal'Dorei and Exandria in general, and then you flip the crocodile over, and that's the first time in a game I just deleted a good like page and a half of notes. I was like, this is fine. We're done. What do I do after that? That's amazing. I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I love improvisation, and I was like, you made a strong choice, and every other part of the story fell in the line with that. So like, who am I to like wrestle you back to my high-minded thing?
Did it to me, because I think that's when Opal had no power. Like no magic. Yeah. So I'm like, what the fuck am I going to contribute but this knowledge? So actually, it was all your idea.
Oh my God.
You did it to yourself.
I did it.
You know what the biggest mystery of this game is how for 8 weeks, for 4 hours, I was able to hold my bladder, and I can't do it for 1 hour. I can't do it for 1 hour.
You got it, buddy.
We'll wait.
God, that was such a good moment.
Yeah.
I was just like, I love you already so much, but when that happened of pulling that out, you're like, no, this is a real thing. You can do this. And I was like, of course she knows this. Of course.
I'm telling you, like the one useful thing about being from Florida is going on those field trips
I remember that.
to the Miccosukee like alligator wrestling place. And there's like a Miccosukee man who wrestles the alligators, and he was like, if you're ever in the Everglades and find an alligator, flip it over. And then like he did, and then they just go
Or
limp.
run. That's also your first option.
They're very fast, which I didn't know until I found that out.
They're like darters. They can like
Only
short
option,
distance.
if you see them, is to flip them over and rub their belly.
No, I think if you could maybe back away slow. You know, like you're not a threat. I'm not here to, whatever. But if if it's you or the croc or the alligator, you do what you got to do. It's like punching like a shark in the eyes or in the nose or something. It's your last resort. Like if there is nothing to do, try that.
I just think
when
the fight or flight kicks in, the last thing you think of is like,
go toward the thing.
It seems very counterintuitive.
Designer is in the master document of the monster manual going, delete.
Please update the crocodile stats.
Yep.
Tummy time.
But no, to that point, we've had this conversation before. one of the things I love, that moment to me is indicative of one of my favorite things about role-playing games, which is when you don't focus on what the rules tell you you're capable to do. You just instead go with the creative choice and let the GM and you figure out how that fits into the rules.
Yeah.
It's often the longer you play these games, the more comfortable you are with them. You sometimes unconsciously begin to pigeonhole your options to what's on your character sheet, which is one of the unfortunate downsides to games like D&D and stuff like that, is it can kind of filter you into that point. But with newer players or people that have played for a while and encourage themselves to think outside that box, is to kind of let that go for a bit and instead just go with the impulse action and then figure out how to make it fit later. And good GMs will know how to roll with it and make it happen.
Yeah.
And that was just a perfect example of that. I loved it so much.
We'll always have the crack.
We'll always have a crowd.
it.
I kept that mini with me it was behind the screen for the rest of the thing. I was like, never forget. Sometimes we're gonna click on
It really was inspiring and makes, because I may have played this in other games before, but I am constantly fighting that desire in me to say oh, but you can't do that because you have to fit into this story and you have to, and this is the thing, and rather than just being it's a game and your imagination is the limit. And that's how we should be doing so many things in our lives, but we don't get a chance to, so why not do it here?
Yeah. I mean, it became a phrase, but even my home games before Critical Role, my favorite thing to tell a player was, you can certainly try. It's maybe, can I do this? But let's see.
Yeah.
And it might fail spectacularly. And if at a certain point, if you're asking for too much, then you have to kind of calm it back a bit, But let's see if it works out. And if it fails, it's going to be a hilarious part of the story. If it manages to succeed, we're going to remember that moment the alligator moment for years to come. And that's where the real joy of it comes from.
And the fact that failures are celebrated because they tell a great story too, which is not something that we are taught in regular life very often.
There is something so specific to DMs, when you finally get to be I'm one thing, and if I fail, that's amazing. Because you roll so much back there. You're I'm missing hits and hitting a bunch all the time and it doesn't feel like anything. There's something it was always so joyful to watch when I was group check. How'd you do? And your number was always so low. And you were always so delighted. And I was
love it.
The point that I was watching you, I was watching you do it because we're sitting next to each other. And I was okay, I think the problem is the way his wrist rolls it. Truly. Because I was maybe if he shakes it before. Because you were just, you were doing it with your fingers and you just go that. And I was it's in the wrist. But then that wasn't it. I was maybe the dice are too heavy.
You can pull Sam Regal.
There.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest technique.
I love it.
You pulled out a bunch of natural 20s in that last episode when it was clutch.
When it mattered, you did.
When it was clutch.
That's the weirdest thing about Darya is arguably he is one of our most capable party members. When he got in there, he was fucking wrecking shop every single time. Yeah. But he didn't always get in there.
Nope.
And he got blessed by a god. There's the observer. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
And how do you feel about that?
How do I feel about
being blessed by
an emerging lesser idol in the realm of Tal'Dorei, looking upon and blessing? I mean,
we know Aimee ships you two.
I like that. They need to be married.
I think, Darya thinks it's fine. He's pretty happy about that. I thought it was fucking awesome. Are you kidding me? I made this character, how do I put it? Darya is kind of one of those wind-up toys that'll just keep going in a direction until somebody points him in a new direction. It's oh, right, this way. That's kind of the instinct I went with him, which is why I think he attached to Dorian so heavily. He's you know what you're doing. You're my best friend and my leader. What do we do? Yeah. What do we do?
Meanwhile, I'm just floating in this wind with an anchor attached to me, hoping,
This guy has it all figured out.
Follow him. Holy chain of what? Yeah. To Orem, and Orem's I asked for literally none of this. It's my favorite. Oh, it was so good every time.
I don't like to use this word, but I feel Darya maybe was the most deserving of the wings. You know what I mean? Not deserving because of anything you did or the character, but he just, you kind of want him to have that. I wanted him to have that.
I will say he's probably the least appreciative.
Right.
Because he's just oh, cool, wings, wee! He's not the gods looked upon me and gave me this blessing. I've been given this responsibility.
Maybe that's why she picked you. I don't know.
Maybe. He's just oh, this is fun. And it's useful. Like, he doesn't, he's impulsive. He goes with whatever the first thought is and moves forward. He's very much just that kind of person. So I think as far as the relationship with the observer goes, he still doesn't fully understand it. He's not like an unintelligent person. I hate the idea of intelligence as a stat denoting a person's capability. He's just not as well learned. He has a hard time focusing, and he just kind of constantly is going in a forward momentum to the point where he doesn't stop long enough to really absorb all the information. And so he has a lot of half bits of things about the world. Yeah, he's a very ADHD person. And yeah, there you go.
Yeah, can confirm.
There you go. So I think that's where his low intelligence and low wisdom comes from. Is just his momentum through life doesn't allow him to reflect on choices before making them, nor to have absorbed all the information to make them intelligently. And that's just kind of how he goes through life. Yeah. So for the observer, he just that's that cool cat voice that talked to him. So he left him some fruit, and he got some wings. That's neat. What's next? That's just kind of where
That's
he's
why also wing.
Cool. What's so cool about the observer?
Here's a little fruit.
Here's some fruit. Get some wings.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you think you chose to play a character so in the moment because so much of what you've done for so long has to be above board, that you have to know a little bit of what's coming in order to do your job? Do you think that motivated your choice to play a character like that?
That's what I thought. That you were trying to have fun and separate so that you could just enjoy raw as a player.
That wasn't intentional, but I guess there could be a layer of that too. I initially was just trying to step out of my comfort zone of players I usually play. Characters, when I do have the opportunity, I tend to fall in a similar space. I want to do something that was very different. And I also wanted to put myself in a position where I had a character that realistically had no business knowing any of the lore of the world that I had built, so that one, I wouldn't feel any instinct to step in and put any sort of lore on the table when this was your game and this was your Exandria. So yeah, that never crossed my mind, but now that you pointed out, that may have also been an aspect of it, to just be able to just disengage a bit and ride the ride without thinking too much about it. So I had a good time.
Well, it's very joyful to watch you.
So joyful.
That was a joyful character.
So joyful.
So good.
I feel like Daryax would have a cooking show on Netflix, a very colorful one where he's just making desserts, pies. I don't know.
They would have gotten
Pies.
They would have gotten.
Producers really have to wrangle him.
I was about to say,
Really?
Stop showing up halfway through the first
I'd say
season.
it ran for most of an open episode, and then he moved on.
I'm just laughing the other day, just out of nowhere, because I remembered the moment, I think it was in the last game, when Dorian fell. And when we came back from break, you were screaming for Dorian. And when we came back from break, you went, Brienne! It's that's, and it took me a minute. I'm like, oh God, that's funny. And then I was thinking about it the other night and I just started laughing out loud. Oh, so silly, I love it.
I love it.
Dorian
One of my favorites was Fierai was like, all right, who's going to be first into the portal? And you were like, let's go! Just
We're already half 1 foot in.
I'll go.
We should, I guess we're talking a little bit about the one of the first jokes we had was that we were presented with a very dangerous scenario. It was I think it was one of our first playthroughs as a full group, or I can't remember. And it was there were a million things we could do, a million paths we could take, and one super fucking stupid, dangerous thing we could do. And let's go do the thing! And I was like, oh, this is what this group is. And it was, I was really excited after that.
Was that when you guys were fighting the fire elementals and they were way above your class?
I mean,
that's true, that's true.
We fought a lot of them.
So many
Was it the
times I
crater?
had complex
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And we're like, let's go in the crater.
Those early games.
crater.
And she was like, wait, no, I don't have a map for the crater.
The crater was pregame, right?
Goddamn
Yeah,
crater.
I think
My only note was don't go into there.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're gonna go twice.
How often can we go?
Yeah, we went back. We almost died and immediately went back.
It's like the GM
I was like, okay.
she's trying so hard to be like the video game that is trying to tell you you are not at the right level for this land yet. Like you have to go level up, and you're just like, nah, I got it.
I get this text out of the way.
Sorry, let me be clear. A god showed up and said, hey, by the way, don't go in the crater. And you guys went,
Yeah.
and then went twice.
Well, we just need to check it one more time.
What if
I think that was Orm's idea, actually.
it was?
It was Orm's idea, which is on, like,
So much for my trust.
yeah,
It was.
which was a ballsy fucking move.
But after that, the rest of the campaign, Orem's inner monologue was just, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
While also doing really dope combat shit the whole time. Can we talk about like the full-on stunt show that is Orem in battle?
We watched Liam do like combat stuff for hours because you're so fucking good at it, and it goes so fast. It actually is the 6 seconds it's supposed to be, and you're just like, and that's my turn, and I'm like still like, and I think I can do this extra move. Like you're just so good at that.
You've had a lot of practice.
It's really good.
Yeah.
But the flair and the story.
The
flair.
It shows, and if you look at a lot of role-playing games, you look at combat classes or combat builds versus magic builds and more magic-centric games, and the magic builds always look more interesting because you're like, I have all these options. When I'm combat-based, I'm just hitting and doing damage. Right. And yes, on paper, that's exactly what it is. But you gave a perfect example of how I love melee classes, which is where you get to creatively tell how you engage with the combat. You get to have fun with the flair and the spin and the visuals of how the battle entrusts itself into the narrative and how it feels like, it can be anything from, an Ip Man martial arts battle to an extremely beautiful, almost, Crouching Tiger type, combat dance to where it can be a really brutal, throw down, drag out, fist fight. Like I love those. You can do as much
with it as you can. Talking about fire arcing through the air, I've been watching a lot of sword fighting movies and listening to like an audio book about the history of swordcraft. And what I've liked doing in the history of us gaming together is I started with, and I didn't start out to do this, but I started with a rogue, but not really a typical rogue. He would like run at things, which is dumb for rogues. And then I made a wizard who was a coward and hated himself. Like wizards often like power trip. I'm wielding the universe, and he was like the first game he ran and hid in a crowd. And I always wanted to play.
Frustrating. I was like, where's he going?
Fuck you. So I guess I'm working my way through the 4 original classes of D&D. And now I've got a fighter, but I didn't want to do it the typical way and just be like, I'm a big dude and I'm going to hit stuff. Like I've made a halfling and he's a ballet dancer, and I'm just enjoying being a little
Baryshnikov. Hey, DM tip. Right of first refusal. Always give your players the ability to describe their own stuff, because when people know what they want to describe, I'm good at this job. I would not have done as good a job as you describing all of the cool shit that Orem did. Yeah, so really it was cool. Every time I was just like, wait, no, you tell me. I know it sounds like I'm I'm phoning it in, but please just you tell me. Yeah. What did you do? How did it go? Holy shit.
It'll 100% inform how I play again if I ever play again, and I hope to, because this was the most fun. Yeah. Like it will. When you watch someone do it to that level, and then you watch everybody just like Matt's describing his magic, and Fern all the beautiful little details and all the little details about your martial art, seeing that go down. I didn't even know that was part of the game before I started playing. I was too busy looking at the numbers going, okay, and like thinking like a person that like likes to play RPGs but not role play them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you can make anything as cool as you want, even if I only rolled a 4. And I think that was something that I'll carry on forever, watching you do it, because then I realized, oh shit, I have to up my game. Like you just gave me the opportunity to tell about how I did something here, when you actually are given, for me at least with the dice, the rare moment to self-actualize. So I was like, well, I better fucking make this at least kind of cool, because we are heroes, right? This is fucking Dungeons and Dragons. We're supposed to be doing some epic shit, and that's always what it felt like with everything that you did.
Literally.
So yeah,
and
it was
also
cool.
From an actor standpoint, it's a lot, or it's very inspiring to see someone show restraint in a character. And like, that's really hard when you're improvising and you don't know what you're doing. I'm talking about myself. You don't know what you're doing. So like, I like to talk my way out of things, and like to have that sort of like stillness, and I'm not going to be the flashiest character. I'm not always going to have something to say. Is just fuck. Like, that's like the dream. Like, that's so cool as an actor for you to choose to play that character and play it so well. So
I will say the difference between, and they're both gorgeous and beautiful, between the way you describe, the how do you want to do this, but your descriptions of your how do you want to do this will go down in history because
doing? Oh,
I mean,
because I don't think I've ever seen anybody else who, and I mean this with all the love, who projects onto like the person that they're killing and inserts dialogue into their brain as well. And
that's just because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But
I was like, it was so good. I was like crying, laughing sometimes, like in the way that you'd be like, and now they're looking at me like, bitch. And I'm like, she just like took a moment from the DMC to be like, this is what he thinks.
Yeah. I
got it. So good. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Oh man.
I love playing these games, but I have loved this experience just because I have loved you to fall in love with doing it and seeing what you can do and how rewarding it is and how different it is from anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is so different. The passing the baton aspect of this is something that I didn't expect, and how, I think I said this earlier, but how egoless it kind of has to be, because like, I'm gonna go actors, I love them. I am one. I've been my whole life. You would think fit well in this world, and I get that. But you have to let the desire to be a star like fall away and share the table with everybody. And that's one of the things I've discovered was most gratifying, is watching everyone's sort of egos fall away. And when someone else has them, there's so much time as an actor you spend is so cutthroat, and it's so me.
Yeah.
And you have to be that way to be successful in this business to a certain extent. It's just the cold hard truth. But you get down to this table and you sit with other actors, people that you're supposed to like work with and compete with, and to let all the ego away and just watch somebody do something so fucking cool and just give them that moment by doing nothing is such a cool thing, and why I understand it's such a cool thing for just people in general to bask in the joy of watching someone else do well at something, fictional or not. I think it's not only good for the game, it's good for the person who's playing it. And that's one of the things that I've enjoyed the most, being at the table, for sure.
When we met, like, in the before times, because I was like maybe gonna guest on the campaign 2.
You're supposed to be a campaign 2 guest.
Yeah.
That game?
And the side game. But I remember like going into it, not really knowing much about it, and being like, okay, so like, who's gonna fuck who over? Like, I guess maybe this is just the way that I like walk through life, which is very sad, or through this business, where like I didn't understand really that it was like you're telling a story with your friends. None of these people are your adversaries. I didn't pronounce that right. English is my second language. They're not. You know what I mean? It's not like really a game of villains. I didn't understand that until we sat down, and I was like, yeah, but like, what if we make whatever, maybe this character will, I don't know, she's pretty cool, a different character. I was like, what if I was thinking of all the ways that I can sort of like make her kind of disgusting, because I thought that was interesting. But really it's not about that. It's about like teamwork, and it's about telling a story together. And oh man, that's just like really enriched my life personally, and I think as an actor.
I think that aspirational part of it, though, is precisely, like, not to get too lofty about it, but I do think this is one of the reasons why I love how they show the kids playing Dungeons and Dragons and Stranger Things, is because it is such a when I started playing when I was 8. Wow. And because I loved my brother, and he bought me a D&D set to be like him, and I just devoured it, and then I stopped for a while. But there is something so powerful about learning how to tell stories together that doesn't happen in the school system, and then depending on your experiences, if you are in the business world or if you're in entertainment or whatever, you may or may not be surrounded by people who support that. I feel very lucky that I've found you guys, I've found other artistic communities that do that. But this genre and especially when you're doing it with people who take their fun very seriously, like I do. I take my fun very seriously. Do not come to the table and fuck around. Yeah. I will support you 100% in your story. And when you have that anywhere in the world, whether you're streaming it to millions of people or whether you're doing it at your home game, when you have that, you can take that out into the world with you and have that agency. And then all the other crap doesn't stick to you as much because you know that exists. And I think it's a really, really important thing. I feel like this is the most rewarding acting I've done in decades, because there's something about the connection that you have with everyone here that you don't get to do when you're like, I'm the star.
Oh, right.
This is my coverage.
Yeah, right.
I talk like that every time I perform. I have an excellent career.
Yeah. Is that
I am Anjali Bhimani and I am here to solve your problem.
That's the first voice on your reel?
Yes, exactly.
So
I'm Anjali Bhimani. Hire me because I am brilliant.
I work in New York as a local.
I'm a handsome actor.
Yeah.
No, I am here to wax poetically about the power of role-playing games and everything that they can bring to you in your life. 4 hours. This could be like a 6-hour wrap up.
It could be Howard.
It could. But we are running out of time. But no, I'm just so glad that you guys are able to like that. That's always the hope, and especially bringing in new people into this and like hoping like, oh God, are they gonna think that this is like real dumb? And we're like, ooh, these weird nerds over here doing these things. So yeah, to just hear that it was like such a rewarding experience for you and for everybody, and Aabria, I hope you as well.
Yeah, this was dope as shit. I was gonna make a joke, but no, just sincerely, this was great. I live here now.
Yeah.
We found the crawl space, right?
We're together.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
You could. Yeah, I got a table back during Undeadwood, so I'm
Yes.
They're in
right
the
under it.
ball.
I'm hiding under it.
They're like, what's that rustling? It's like, oh, the EXU people are still here. They're like campaign 6. We're like, like wall monsters. Like, give us a shot.
I would like leave out bowls of Cheerios in the morning. Like, what? We have to eat.
Don't feed the EXU cast. Don't. Put up a sign. Read the sign.
Where'd all the snacks go on the craft table? God damn it.
Before we close out, I do want to say real fast, like, Exandria, but specifically Taldore, was something that was born accidentally from a one-shot between a group of friends that turned into a home game through a group of friends and just kind of slowly took shape through your misadventures and choices, and then somehow we ended up doing it online and it became a thing that is still blowing our minds continuously. And so this is a very personal and a very important thing to me, this world. Taldorian specifically because it's where it all started. And to step back and entrust it to you, Aabria, has been a very surreal and fulfilling and wonderful experience. And I cannot express how proud I am and how excited I am for all the stories that you will tell in other worlds and hopefully more in this one. But I just want to say thank you for taking this large, intimidating task. I know because it's an intimidating task to me every time I step over behind that screen, and just being your amazing self. And thank you.
I almost made it through without crying. Thank you for trusting me with your world, and thank you for being a part of getting to tell one of the coolest stories I will ever tell. And I hope there's more in the future, and I'm full of a lot of love and gratitude, and y'all are the best, and I'm never gonna forget this, so thank you.
Well,
Our
hey.
world now.
Yes, and this world is full of unlimited stories and unlimited storytellers. Yeah. It's almost like I put a lot of thought into this. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, really though, like hats off to you.
Yeah, who's like dealing with this anyway?
Well, with that, I would love to, before we close out, I have to give out a ton of thanks, of course, first and foremost, to the amazing crew that is behind these curtains. Max James, Steve Phalos, all of our amazing, those are, our head producers on this, and of course all of our amazing crew that's here with us week after week, as well as I got to give a shout out to Joanna Johnen, who did all of the amazing stained glass artwork. Hannah Friederichs, who did the character art, which is just so gorgeous.
Oh my God.
Christian Brown, which is our VFX designer, who took Joanna's beautiful art pieces and made them into the amazing opening title that you saw, made them 3D. Gotta give a shout out to Dogmite, who made this incredible DM screen. Eldritch Foundry, who created our minis for the show. Ian Phillips, of course, our amazing miniature painter. Noxweiler Berf, who created all of the amazing maps that you saw in episode 7 and 8. So good. The face. He's brilliant. So thank you, Nox. We also had original music used on this show by Omar Fidel and Hexany Audio. So thank you for all of the amazing, gorgeous music that you made for this, as well as a huge shout out to Colm McGuinness, who did the main Exandria Unlimited theme, as well as the art reel theme, and to Caio Santos and Clara Dali for creating a few beautiful landscapes for the pre-show art reel. And of course, once again, everyone at Critical Role, everyone here at this table, you guys dedicated so much time. It is not lost on me or anybody else, like the dedication to such a big project to this and coming week after week, and of course, to Aabria Iyengar for being with us from the beginning, lending your brain and your brilliance and playing in this amazing sandbox that Matt, you created for us from the beginning.
Now.
That's all the time we have for today, but not ever, not finite. Any last words, though?
The Chuckle Fucks.
The Chuckle Fucks! Cheers to the Chuckle Fucks.
To the Chuckle Fuck!
Hell yeah.
Canon.
I love all of you ashholes for forever.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We love you. And is it Thursday yet? What? I got to say it. Yay!